Hi, everybody. This is Jake Smirchna. This is what I ended up doing for my EDAD 855 project about adult learning theory. I kind of struggled on how to start this assignment. It was our first one, so I wasn't necessarily sure which way to go. But I kind of started an outline, and then I kind of started to put things together in a PowerPoint. And the way I approached this is what I did is I took some of the research that I thought was really, really important in the chapter and kind of linked some of my experiences in there. And I envisioned this as maybe a reminder email, a short video reminder email that I'd maybe send out to principals and administrators, like I kind of noted here, at the start of every school year, just to remind them that as we prepare for another school year, we want our adults to keep learning. We want our teachers to keep getting better. So that's kind of how I started here, just reminding us of the prompt of our assignment. But I think the top quote from Glickman's text was very, very important, and that's reminding everybody that teachers only get better when we help them improve their decision making. And that's really what chapter 4 was all about, was making sure that we understand how adults learn and how we as principals and administrators can open that view and help them all get better in the classroom every day. And that really boils down to learning. So background wise, Glickman talked about some differences in intelligence, and that's really what Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence is all about. When you look at the difference between fluid and crystallized types of learners, that is where we really start to understand we all have some set skills, but in terms of that crystallized intelligence, a lot of our learning comes from experiences. And as principals thinking about our teachers, we know that the more they teach, the better they're probably going to get. And there's probably ways that we as principals can really help support that more. Just thinking to Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, we have to understand as principals that all of our teachers are very different. Some are very, very kinesthetic. Some are very, very right-brained. Some are left-brained. And as administrators, when we prepare our professional development and just our instructional strategies in the school, there's lots of different strengths and maybe even weaknesses, you would say. But as a principal, you have to understand that everyone's a little bit different, and I think you need to balance that idea as you prepare materials for all of your teachers, knowing that we want them all to learn and grow, and a lot of that can probably come from each other, but they are all different, and that's really what those multiple intelligences are all about. Glickman talked about a few different types of theories, and again, I thought the text was very, very informative, very intense. But when you have some of those research strategies, that really helps. So Glickman talked a little bit about how adults are different than children and some of those main ideas. So I really think as administrators, we need to be holistic in what we do and thinking about the way our adults learn. There's lots of different mindsets, and everyone has had different experiences and comes from different backgrounds. So some key takeaways I had is that we know as learners, adults are fairly self-directing. I mean, they a lot of times want to be in control at that point, and we want them constantly becoming better problem solvers and using their experiences. Many of them are very, very performance centered, and they thrive on those evaluations that we're going to give. And a lot of the times it's going to be very intrinsically motivated. And that's something we as principals need to take into account. Everyone's going to want to learn in different ways, and some people are probably not going to want to as much, and that's part of the art of being a great principal. Self-directed learning kind of speaks for itself, but I really thought in the text it talked a lot about how some teachers really learn to love their profession more and more as time goes on, and that as we as principals give feedback and help our teachers grow, we really should be fostering a lot of that within them, and they need to be the ones looking in the mirror and figuring out what can I do to get better, and we hope a lot of that comes from within. Then with the last couple ideas in there, we just talked a little bit more in the textbook about experiences, and just that if we're going to have those experiences as principals, we need to make sure to give teachers time to stop and catch their breath and really reflect. And as they're moving through their careers, we want them not to just be teachers, but really keep making sure they're learning themselves. The text talked a little bit about communities of practice, which I think a lot of us probably call more PLCs, but I thought there was two real big points that spoke out to me as a principal or a potential principal someday. And that's just, I mean, like it says here, recent work investigating the links between experience and adult learning suggests that a lot of our most meaningful learning happens very, very informally and incidentally, rather than the highly structured PLCs or meetings that we might plan. And I think we all know that teachers learn a lot in the hallways talking with each other. It's how did this lesson go for you? How do you do this? And stuff like that. And again, there was a study mentioned in there, but the leader needs to be very, very particular in a school about setting aside time to not only give teachers time to reflect, but also just to understand their teachers and the culture of the building and where we're at. Are teachers fine doing the same thing as we did last year? Are teachers hungry to bring technology in? And again, when you're going to be a leader and create these practices, you need to know your people. I'll use that phrase a few times, but you need to know your people in order to know how to help them as learners and where they're at. Just when we keep thinking about those teachers, I think that student learning only happens when teachers are getting better every day, and that's how we're going to improve that. The text talked a lot about how a lot of our initiatives and our innovations we've tried with adult learning has failed, and even when we look at some of our professional development things, those have failed. And a lot of times that's because teachers aren't given time to learn and adapt before we have to already start something new. And again, I think it all comes down to knowing your people and knowing how they learn and giving them time to reflect with each other and collaborate. I thought it was pretty interesting. Glickman talked about how most teachers all get the same exact workshops, the same exact observations, and the same exact assessments. That's not what teachers do for kids in their classroom. That's why we differentiate. And as a principal, that needs to be true as well. And you need to probably take all of your adult learners as teachers and treat them a little bit differently. Just building on some of those ideas here, and I know I'm kind of getting towards that 5-minute window we talked about, but most schools just flat out do not foster collaborative action. I mean, we've talked a lot in the text about isolation and teachers being by themselves. Principals need to plan and make sure they're pushing people to reflect and think together and empowering their teachers to grow and get better and find new ways and take risks in the classroom. Glickman talks a lot about how every adult's in a different place cognitively, morally, their overall adult consciousness. And it's hard because, like Madeline Hunter said in our book, teaching is a very, very tough profession. There's a lot of things in there that are hard and there's no absolutes. So really, when we start to look at how to improve our teachers and how to help them learn, it comes from learning in new situations and giving them time to catch their breath and understand and process about how things are going and what's really working in their classrooms. Principals need to know what's going on in their people's lives. They need to know, as we look at adults and how things normally go, teaching is a little bit different and it requires some different things. So principals have to take those personality traits into account as they're planning for that stuff. So last but not least, kind of just wrapping up here again, and this is me giving my message to all my principals, but when we think about how to make your teachers better teachers, and that involves learning, you have to know your people. You cannot help spark learning and get that 17-year veteran teacher to try something new or look up some new research on a strategy if you don't know them. You got to know what makes them tick, what makes them want to be better. And again, that all comes down to those multiple intelligences and knowing those people. I think creating a love for learning is important, not only for the kids, but for teachers. And when you get teachers talking about how they're learning, that shows with the kids too. And, collaboration has to be important all the time. And no matter if you're a 15-year veteran teacher or brand new, everyone can grow together. We mentioned individualization. And again, as a principal, you have to do some professional development things that probably are school-wide. But on the flip side, new teachers need to have something that's probably different than veteran teachers in terms of learning and growth. And last but not least, I think it might have cut off at the bottom here. I made sure to put Glickman's citation on there, but when administrators plan their things, they have to have intention. They have to have time for reflection. They have to have time for them to be critically thinking and exploring new ways and what's working best for our kids. So in summary here, I hope this was kind of the intent of it, but this would be a great reminder for principals just to remember all adults learn differently. And as a principal, you kind of have to have that balance of a holistic, big picture understanding of what our school culture is, but you also have to know those teachers and that they all learn different, but you can spark some of that self-directed learning and some of that reflection that's going to help them grow. So I hope everyone's project went well and we're having a great class together. Thanks for your time.